God bless everybody today. It's May 22nd of 2024, and this is an awesome article that explains basically what I've been talking about for some time, and how Erdogan has this complex that he's going to rebuild the Ottoman Empire. He's doing this in the new 100th century, which just completed last year in October. So he's starting a new 100 years. So if you go back in World War One, the Ottoman Empire, which was what he wants to rebuild, was basically eliminated, at least on paper, in 1923 through World War One. But they've had their 100th year anniversary in 2023, and then Erdogan comes out and basically says he wants to rebuild the new Ottoman Empire. He's the new Allah, basically. He will be the one that rebuilds the new caliphate, and he is the new Muslim leader of the world. I've talked about all these different things, and this article is extremely good about laying this out. So I wanted to get into this article and how Turkey now has the authority through the government to control the military. And so he's getting ready to go into Iraq and Syria, and so we need to understand exactly what's going on in this guy's head. I've been following this guy for a long time, and when he says something, he's going to do it. He does believe that he wants to rebuild the Ottoman Empire, and it also goes into when he was actually sort of ordained as the Muslim leader of the world here. So let's look at this article. This is extremely important. This man is going to affect the world tremendously as we move forward. So this article is from the Nordic Monitor on May 13th of 2024, and it says Turkey's president suffers from a God complex revered for attributes belonging to Allah and the Prophet. So this guy thinks he's pretty special, and he's untouchable because there's a lot of people around that it's about him. So nobody contradicts him. Everybody agrees with him. The country's not extremely happy with him right now, even though he's been in there 20 some years. His economy's imploding. It's hyperinflating. It's not really hyperinflating. It's at 70%, but it could go into hyperinflation. And his lira is collapsing against the dollar. And so he's had all kinds of issues. He's been trying to barter NATO and things for like F-16s and things like that, which is going to come back and bite them once he actually unleashes in the Middle East against the Kurds and the Medes. Initially in its attack, because he secured a 25 by 200-mile swath of a controllable area in Iraq, as well as he's going to go down into Syria. But not only is he going to attack the Kurds and Medes and sort of shove them to the east, he wants to go down and help Palestinian in Gaza, and that is one of his main priorities right now, is to get down there and to eliminate this problem that Hamas has now there with Israel. So like I said, this is an extremely good article, and it goes over a lot of the things that I've talked about, and it sort of reiterates some the majority of what I've been talking about. So let's look at what this guy says and how this guy is psychologically, ideologically set up to change the Middle East, and in his opinion, he's going to do it. He's said he's going to go into Iraq and Syria and stabilize that swath of land, that 25 by 200 mile land zone that he wants, against the Kurds, which he considers are terrorists. Back in the history books, if you go look at the Kurds, they're the Medes, and that's extremely important, especially when you get into Daniel, because once you get into Daniel, especially 8 through 12, Darius, the Medes, or the Medes are constantly indicated in these books, especially in Daniel 11. It immediately starts out with the first year of Darius the Mede and how that's going to affect us. And that is an extremely important uh, part of what's going on right now. And actually, I just did a video on Daniel 11 and how this helicopter crash with this Iranian president is going to be significant, and how Iran will fall soon, because this is the fourth king that we should be concerned about. If you go to the supreme leaders, there's only been two basic since the bringing up of Iran as a nation, and so that's doesn't fit with Daniel 11, because it talks about the fourth leader that's going to affect this country. And if you go back into the history, I think you'll realize that this is probably this leader. He has now perished, and he has affected this region for decades. And so at this point, we're going to see probably Iran fall, as indicated in my timetables, around January of this next year, December, January. But Erdogan's the guy that's going to change the picture, and he's going to be the one that eliminates Iran by the end of this year. And so let's go look at that. He's going to eliminate the Kurds. He's going to eliminate Iran. He's bring 10 full nations against Israel by spring of next year. And so let's see how he feels he works into this picture. And also, you got to realize that if Erdogan is the white horseman of Revelation, which I truly believe he is, that is the person that brings a quarter of the world into war, that's going to change the Middle East, like I think he will, God is going to allow this to happen. Okay, we can't do anything about it. I've said this many, many times in the past. You could drop a nuclear bomb on this guy and he would walk out of it, because God has a plan for him. So there's nothing we can do about it. We can just sit back and watch. We can put our oil in our lamp and get ready for this ride. Okay, so, but you need to understand what is going on out here so you can prepare properly. Okay, so look at this article. It's extremely important. I've talked about all these different things, and this matches up completely with what I've been talking about. Like I say, this was just brought back out. Similar discussion. This was on May 13th of 2024, and I think it really hits most of the bases that we should be talking about. So, a collection of God and prophet-like public praises uttered by and for Turkey's strongman Recep Tayyip Erdogan offers a glimpse into the psychological state of the leader who believes he possesses superior abilities and apparently suffers from a God complex. Of course, this is the guy writing this is saying this, but he does. I agree with him on this article. He thinks that he's like a Muhammad or an Allah type figure, and that he is the leader of the Muslim community of the world, and you're going to see that as we move into this article. So he's got a high opinion and ego of himself, and think about it. Satan falls from his ego, and Erdogan's going to fall from his ego. Having ruled a country of 85 million, extending from from Asia to Europe, with the imperial legacy of an Ottoman Empire for 22 years. It's been there a long time, guys. Erdogan has disseminated the opposition, imprisoned his critics and opponents, consolidated all levers of power in his hands, destroyed checks and balances, and became the sole decision maker on all matters in his own country. Now, I want to point this out, and if you don't want to believe me, this guy verifies it. He's been in power for 22 years. I don't care how long he's been the president. Once he won that general election, he controls this country. And he's been controlling it pretty much ever since. And so if you go back into when he was elected in 2022 or 2002, and you add 22 years, guess where that takes you right now? And if you go to my paradigm, it matches up, because once he turns into Antichrist, there's that cutoff of the 23rd year, 2025, and the first year of Antichrist that's coming up in 2025 when he dies on the sixth seal at the end of March. At least I believe so on my timeline, as I explained to you and set up on that timeline that I've been showing you guys. So this is extremely important. I'm not the only one that believes that this man's in power for 22 years. It's extremely important. He's affected everything over there, to the point he's destroying his country at this point, and now he's getting ready to take the whole Middle East into war. This is going to affect you guys, but this is extremely important. For 22 years, he's been on this path to rebuild the Ottoman Empire. He is now in his beginning of his new 100th year of October of last year when he started this campaign. So you need to understand that. That's pretty important, because that was about the time Hamas and all that started happening. So, and that date was October 29th of 2023. So he started this campaign just shortly after that Hamas thing, and now he's going to start into this picture also, and he's going to affect this more than anybody. So let's get more into this article. So his inflated view of his abilities and infallibility, coupled with the presence of yes men surrounding him, reinforces his narcissistic personality and shores up his superiority complex. He considers himself the caliph. Okay, this is extremely important. This is the leader of the entire Muslim community worldwide. Now, there was a thing in this article, as we go down here, back in 2015, he went down and he was christened around the Black Rock, around Mecca. This was an extremely important event that brought him 7 years later into 2022. We now have a real problem on our hands. So this is going to affect everybody real soon, guys. You just need to understand it. He does consider himself the caliph. He's in a lot of instances, the Muslims do believe he's the Muslim leader too. It's not just he thinks it. They took him down and christened him around the Black Rock at this huge ceremony down there. And and it will show you some things down as we get into this article about that. And therefore believes he deserves special consideration. Following his party's defeat in March, now there was a lot of local elections. He did not do very well because his economy is not very strong right now. The lira is collapsing. It's a massive inflation of at least 70% right now, and so they're struggling over there just to feed themselves, and so they're not extremely happy with him even after 22 years, and so he had these local elections. They didn't do very well, and it re-legislated his ruling Justice and Development Party, or his AKP, to his second place for the first time in 2 decades. Okay, that's what I mean. When he won that general election, he won the party, and he's controlled the power. Even though he hasn't been the leader or the president, he's controlled the party, and so he's been the guy in the game for 22 years that called the shots, and now he's untouchable. You know, he's like a Putin or a Kim Jong-un or a Xi or whatever. And once you give these guys, Biden, there you go. Once you give these guys decades of power and you have people around them that basically tell them they're the most awesome person on the planet, they're going to believe it over time, because there's no one there that's going to be negative to them, and they won't allow negativity to them. So this is, look, you have one in your own country right now, folks, but you just won't realize it. And I don't care what you say about the Trumpster. He's probably not the best president, but he's definitely better than this guy. So You can take that for what it is. You probably shut me off at this point. So, but like I said, I don't want to get too political, but Biden is exactly what this guy is right here. Think about it. And I don't want to get off topic here, but he's got his yes men around him. He's narcissistic. He has a superiority complex. He's an angry white man right now that really is dimensional and doesn't have a clue what's going on. He could care less what you think, okay, as long as he stays in power. That's what you need to understand. But anyway, as we get in here, he had these local elections. They didn't go very well. They adjusted his Justice and Development Party. It's affected the whole nation for over 2 years. Erdogan addressed his party as lawmakers in Parliament on April 17, stating, and this is what I mean, look, these guys never stop. Biden will never stop. Obama's will never stop. This guy will never stop. The Putins will never stop. The Xi's will never stop because they are built on power and control, okay? And once you understand that, you'll understand politics. He states, Erdogan states, ladies and gentlemen, let everyone see and know this. Nothing is over until we say it's over. Of course not, because he controls it. And if he doesn't like you, he'll eliminate you. He'll put you in jail. He'll throw the key away forever. He's put Kurdish leaders in jail for over 40 years because he doesn't want to deal with them, okay? At face value, this expression seems innocent enough for a politician who suffered a defeat in elections and aimed to mobilize his demoralized support base, yet in the context of political Islamic circles in which Erdogan has deep roots, it has quite shocking ramifications since it appears to challenge the divine will of Allah, one of the 6 main pillars of Islam, which means Allah is the ultimate decision maker and everything happens only according to his divine will. And Erdogan thinks he's this guy, so it's up to his will. And this was big hit to his ego, and so now he's going to lash out. And usually when these guys lash out, it gets ugly. So the remarks reflects Erdogan's inner thinking as he has become accustomed to being the final arbiter in Turkish matters after a long rule of near absolute power. Erdogan did not utter these words in a vacuum. He has a long track record of seeing himself in such a godly manner. The worshipful praise from his followers has certainly contributed to shaping his presidential psyche. This was not the only instance where Erdogan expressed his God-like attributes publicly and openly. In March 2014, speaking at a campaign rally, Erdogan says, "We have come for mercy, not for wrath. Our mercy will prevail over our wrath." He was explaining how his government would act against his critics and opponents. This expression was, in fact, a direct reference to Allah's unique ability in the conventional Islamic school of thought, which was described in a saying of the Islamic prophet Muhammad. See, we were talking Muhammad now. When Allah decreed of creation, he pledged himself by writing his book, which is laid down with him, "My mercy prevails over my wrath." Now, I'm pretty sure I've watched a number of videos on this, and I've also seen pictures of this. This is Erdogan when he was down in Mecca around the Black Rock in 2015. And probably the article will talk about this. And he was christened as this Muslim leader of the world, and so it's extremely important that we understand what he is. Erdogan's statement of criticism with opposition bloc of the political Islamic platform Milli Gazette, the flagship daily of the opposition Islamic political Saadet Party, however you say that, Erdogan mentioning Allah's attribute in connection with himself sparked controversy. It is his associating himself with the attributes of Allah astonished the audience. Okay, this would be like in the Christians when Jesus said to the Pharisees that he was the Son of God. Okay, then they were amazed that they would say something like that. That's blasphemy. Okay, so he's doing the same thing in the Muslim community now, and some of them are looking and going, really, dude? And some of them are going, yeah, he is. Okay, so they're trying to figure out if he is, and look where he is now. This is a number of years later. Attributes of godlike superiority to Erdogan were also expressed by his associates and senior members of his ruling party, the AKP. And Erdogan, of course, remained silent in the face of expressions tactically signaling that he is, in fact, enjoys such comparisons. So he thinks he is what he is, okay? And this is why he's going to be on a mission here. He's going to do this, and it's going to get crazy soon, guys. In July of 2011, the AKP, then Bursa deputy, I'm not going to say his name, stated after talking and visiting with Erdogan after that, even touching our esteemed Prime Minister Erdogan, I believe, is an act of worship. I'm saying this because even his presence energizes us. When he is criticized for such remarks, the lawmaker said he stood by his statement, and so this guy thinks that he's Allah, basically. So, you know, a lot of these, this is what I mean. This guy is going to make a major factor in what's coming up, and he's getting ready to break out end of this month, beginning of June. I've been talking about May, June for a while. So you just had that helicopter go down with the Iranian president. That really put a lot of pressure across the Middle East, and that's a vacuum they're trying to fill at this very moment in time. So in this next paragraph, this additional lawmaker, which I'm not going to say his name, sorry guys, from Erdogan's ruling AKP, this is all from his party, said in January 2014, this radiates back some time. There is Mr. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, a leader who embodies all the attributes of Allah. They wanted to thwart him. And this guy made these remarks during an open ceremony for campaign headquarters in his home province of this area, and served as a lawmaker in parliament until 2018. So these guys are really behind him, and he's got people that, you know, if you spent 20 years and everybody thought you were God, you would have a complex, I'm sure. But that's what's going on here. Describing Erdogan as a world leader, the lawmaker claimed that world powers do not want Turkey to become a leading nation in the Middle East, and that is why they wanted to prevent Erdogan from winning the election on May 30th of 2014. The Turkish people have not allowed all this since 2002, when Erdogan first came to power, and hopefully they will not allow it in the future either, he added. This other lawmaker likened Erdogan to God in a speech he made in August in 2019, stating, when we are told about the president, it feels like we are being told about Allah. Agar is the son of former Interior Minister Agar, who is now in charge of coordinating the organized crime syndicates and mafia groups in Turkey on behalf of President Erdogan. Addressing some 1,500 party faithful in November of 2009. This guy, the AKP, then in this Providence office head, told the crowd, "Let no one doubt the love and respect our people under his roof have for our Prime Minister Erdogan." At that time, he's Prime Minister, but like I say, he's still the guy in power. "We are devoted to our Prime Minister. He is like a second prophet to us. Betraying the Prime Minister is something we can never accept. Eser continues to serve as a senior member of the AKP in this Adim and has assumed official roles such as member of the City Council." Former EU Affairs Minister Bagas declared several cities to be holy, akin to a Islamic holy sites of Mecca and Medina in February 2013, saying, "Rise, Istanbul and Shirt," I'm probably killing this guy, sorry, "are holy cities because these three cities have been instrumental in the birth of the greatest leader in history of the Republic of Turkey. Rise is Erdogan's family's home province, while Istanbul is where he was brought up and entered politics. Sirt, his wife's home province, is the constituency where he was elected for parliament for the first time in the March of 2003 repeated election. Despite being incriminated in the multi-million-dollar gaffe scheme, Erdogan stood by Bagas and appointed him as ambassador of Czech Republic." And so Erdogan, he's got his pull, man. He's not one to mess around, and he is getting ready to get in this game, and it is going to sweep the Middle East. And so we need to understand what this guy is about. Some went as far as saying that Erdogan surpassed the Islamic prophet. Efkan Allah, I'm sorry if I'm saying this stuff wrong, guys, then Interior Minister, said Prophet Muhammad was overtaken by pride, so God warned him. We, on the other hand, will not be tempted by pride. His successor, Suleiman Soylu, and I talk about the tomb of Suleiman Shah. These are extremely important. That's a tomb in Syria that might matter as we move forward. Possibly a christening place that I've mentioned many times. There's always a Suleiman or a Suleiman Shah or some leader of the past. Claimed in December 2021 that the work of the Erdogan government was the work of Allah. Don't just look at what we do. We don't do it by ourselves. We believe that it is Allah who makes us do it. So he told the party faithful in the Bursa province. In February of 2010, this politician who governed this district in this province called the worship of Erdogan and said that the prayer of gratitude, similar to Muslim rituals of God, must be performed because Erdogan is the blessed leader of the Islamic world. A year later, Erdogan rewarded him by making him a member of parliament. Some of Erdogan's deputies likened his speeches to a sunnah, which refers to the saying and practices of the Prophet Muhammad and is considered to be the second authoritative source of knowledge for Muslims or after the Holy Quran. Speaking in this province in May of 2013, this former MP described Erdogan's bargaining for a project completion deadline with contractors who were awarded government tenders as akin to Islamic prophet model, saying, "This is the sunnah of our prime minister. This is the difference with Tayyip Erdogan." His words sparked reactions from the Islamic circles who criticized the deputy for exploiting religious and sacred values for political goals. This deputy made a similar remark, attributing Erdogan's behavior to the Prophet Sunnah. Attending a wedding ceremony in August of 21, the lawmaker said he wanted to follow Erdogan's Sunnah before handling the marriage certificate to the newlywed couple. It says there have been dozens of instances of godlike attributions made for Erdogan during his more than 2 decades of rule in Turkey. None of them were challenged by Erdogan himself, who appeared to enjoy such praise in his self-perception. Perhaps he feels like a god or God-chosen messenger who came to power to lead Muslims all over the world. At times, Erdogan's belief in his omnipotence created headaches for him and his government when he declared himself as an economics. I can tell you that he's had all kinds of problems with his economy, and he usually does the opposite of what he should be doing. He was lowering rates when he should be raising them to stymie inflation, like our government's been doing, raising rates to slow the economy down, to fight inflation, to get people to quit spending money, which they won't stop doing. And so he's done some really terrible policies, and it hasn't done his economy any good. But anyway, he declares himself as an economist who knew all about free market forces and instructed the central bank to change course by adopting unorthodox. I've never seen anybody. He did exactly the wrong things that normally you wouldn't do. But he adopted these unorthodox and unconventional policies, and Turkish economy and finances went into deep trouble, and quickly. He was eventually forced to change course after substantial damage was inflicted on Turkey's foreign currencies, reserves, investment portfolio, and currency value. And that's what I mean. His lira is collapsing, and his government's in terrible shape. And that's probably why he's going to war, because he needs to prop up his government here. He has deliberately stoked tension with Russia, the U.S., European Union, and Gulf states at different times, using various pretexts, only to later back down when the bullying tactics started to hurt him and his inner circle, threatening his rule in Turkey. But in the same breath, he has pried a lot of things like F-16s out of us and other things. He does have, also want to mention this, he has one of the largest drone factories, if not the largest drone factory in the world, in his country. And so that's going to play a major factor as we move forward also. The constraints he faces is shaping economic and foreign policy do not appear to have permanently changed Erdogan's mindset, as he is ready to engage in risky or reckless behavior when it sees an opportunity. At times he seems to have a hard time making meaningful connections between events and loses sight of objectivity. He believes he is an invincible underdog who will come back on top every time, despite the blows of defeats he perceives as only temporary. And just as he made that statement, you know, we're not done till we say we're done. He's not ever going to give up. You can knock this guy down, and he's going to get back up, and he's going to make your life miserable. In other words, he ignores his faults and often shifts the blame to others when mistakes happen. He certainly believes he is entitled to special treatment, demanding admiration, blind loyalty, and respect from people. And when he doesn't get it, it's severe. Usually they go in jail or they end up missing. It's sort of like a Putin thing. He has no regret whatsoever for accountability. He lacks empathy, especially for his Muslim citizens who oppose his rule and his self-deluded world. There is only two camps, us and them. As Erdogan often describes, such division in Turkish society and Muslim community, worldwide polarization and division have been the hallmarks of his long rule. Compounding matters further is that President Erdogan is surrounded by these yes men and women who worship him and dare not utter views that would displease him. The profile of people he has chosen to include in his inner circle paints a picture of those who shy away from critical thinking and avoid challenging views in governance of the country. In reality, Erdogan is nothing but a thug, a narcissistic dictator who abuses religion for his political ambition and enriching his family members and associates with billions of dollars through persuasive corruption in his administration and profits from all sorts of illicit business activities and criminal activities. And so realize that this man is going to affect you soon, probably before the end of this month, now that he has the ability to control the military. They have given him all out ability to basically do what he wants to do, and he just got reelected last year, and so I'm guessing that Erdogan is on a mission that he will not retreat from. And if you go into this article and look at what he's done over the years, you will understand this is a man on a mission that's getting ready to change the Middle East. So let's watch this white horseman, this first seal of revelation that's getting ready to be leashed on the Middle East and bring a quarter of the world into war. It will affect approximately 2 billion people. It's going to end up badly for him because he's going to die on a sixth seal event when he attacks Israel with 10 full nations. But he'll rise again as Antichrist. And we will start another chapter of 1260 days of power as him as Antichrist once he perishes. And you can find that transition in Isaiah 14 many times. It indicates that when Satan is thrown from heaven to earth, he brings forth an Antichrist from a dead Gog of Ezekiel 38 and 39. So keep your eye on this, guys. He's going to affect this, and he's going to change everything soon. God bless and have a good night.